Okay, so we have the new inlet put on. Well, new, that's used, but new to us. We also have our thermostat put in here, and we have to plumb it in to the fuel system. Now the way they do that is you have your return lines up here coming off of each of your injectors, off of each of the 3 cylinders we have. Leaks down and returns back into the tank up here. Now what they did is they had a reservoir that went on here, that this returning fuel would fill that reservoir, and it had a line that would run down and into the thermostat down here. And then that way you would turn the key on and you would turn it to the heat position. That allowed this to heat up down here because it's hooked in with the electricity as well. And it would heat up and the fuel would atomize and be a vapor, I guess, basically. And it would be shot kind of into the intake here, or inlet. And this is pretty much positioned between your 1 and 2 inlets into the head in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to take off the leak down pipe here, and we're going to see what we've got going in here and if we can make something to fit in here and see exactly what we have, because we don't have the reservoir that they use to connect this whole thing up. So we will go ahead and we will do that when we come back. We probably are going to have some fuel leak out of these things when we crack them loose here. This one looks like maybe it's leaking a little bit. It's felt pretty tight there. And that one felt the loosest of all of them. Wipe this off because we don't want debris into our fuel system here, even though this is a return system here. And all that off. As we see here, that's just a union there that hooks it together right in there, and so now we're free of that and free of that. Bring that off a little bit. And we'll go ahead and we'll take loose up here. Like so. Okay. Let's see, we'll get our fuel coming out of there. And we're getting our fuel coming out of there as well. All right, take that away. Okay, so we have our leak off pipe here that we took off of the Brownie. And what we're gonna do now, David Brown had a reservoir that was mounted up in this area here. And that reservoir basically would hold on to some of this fuel that is returned into the tank, and then it would divert it down into your thermostat. And when you hit the key and you kind of charge that thermostat for 15 seconds, it not only heats up the element, but it also heats up the fuel and kind of vaporizes it, and it's injected into the inlet, into the intake, to help it start. What we have to do is we have to put a fitting in here so that we can divert this from going straight into our tank to going into our tank and going down to our thermostat piece. So what I have here, this is a piece off of a 1972 AMC Javelin, and that's American Motors Corporation. This is a piece of the brake system. What this is a T-fitting that fit on the rear axle, and what you had was a rubber line that screwed into this fitting, and that rubber line came from a metal line that was on the frame or the body of the car. This was attached via a bolt to the rear axle, the AMC 20 axle. It then split into two lines that were metal going to either of the tires, the brake system on your tires. Just so happens that these threads, they're the same. So that's why I'm using this. It's made out of brass. It's designed for a brake system. It's obviously your brakes are more higher pressure. It's a hydraulic system, and it's has a higher pressure rating than what we're going to get on our return going back into our tank. But what we have to do is we've got a couple of compression fittings here, and these are just couplings that you would put two pipes together with the nuts and the compression fittings on either end. These screw in to either side where our metal lines, had we had metal lines, would come out here if this was the brake system. So we're going to have to screw these in here. And actually this fits this way. One side of the coupling is longer. And then we also have a fitting here that I made that will fit in down at the bottom. Now this has the same angle right here that we have at the bottom of the hole, which is pretty hard to see down in there. So this will screw all the way in, and it should, when it bottoms out, give us a pretty good seal there. It also has a larger hole here. So this is going to hold some fuel in this area here. And the thing about the reservoir, when you're heating up that plug, the engine is not turning. So the fuel that is being delivered to that plug is in the reservoir, and it's basically gravity fed down to the plug so that it can heat it up and vaporize it. So we're going to have a little bit of extra fuel in here because of that. And then of course our cap will fit in there with our copper line going into it with a compression fitting, which is what we have there. So what we have to figure out is how we're going to put this thing into this system here. Where's the best place to mount it? I was hoping to be able to mount it into the tank and then mount this onto it. But we have a compression fitting here on this line. This is what screws into your tank. So you've got your nut here and your little compression fitting there. And this little nipple sticks into the tank, and then that is compressed via the nut into the whole system. Now we could make an adapter to fit onto that, and actually David Brown did. They originally had an adapter that was similar to this, only it went from a male fitting, which is what we have here, to a female fitting, which is of course what we have here. And then you would screw this pipe into that fitting. Actually, you would screw the reservoir into it and complete the system. We don't have that. So we're going to have to cut the pipe at some point, and we're going to have to install this. Ideally, it would be like, ideally it'd be like this. And we would be vertical and horizontal, and that way gravity is going to allow that fuel to set in there. Because once you use the fuel out of there, once you start turning the engine, the fuel is going to come back through this line. Even if it doesn't start, you're cranking the engine, the fuel is pumping back through here, and it's going to fill this area back up. So that's what we have to figure out next. And one of the other things we have on these fittings, I got these connectors from two different vendors. And as we look at them here, let me get a little light. As we look at them here, you know, one hole is larger than the other. This one on top has a larger hole going all the way through it than the one on the bottom. The one on the bottom is the same size as what our pipe is here. So if it fits on, say it fits on here, then that's the same size opening coming out of our pipe into this fitting. This one is a little larger, so it could be on the return to the tank, going into the tank, or it could be on this side. Either way. But we'll get into that a little bit later. We got to figure out where we're going to cut our pipe and how we're going to install this apparatus in here. And we will do that when we come back. Okay, so what we're looking at here is our T-fitting, and the issue I'm having with it, and I haven't hooked this up yet, I took it back apart because I slept on it. I'm kind of thinking maybe I want to do a little machining on this. Now what we have is a hole, obviously it goes all the way through it, like so. Okay, and this is coming in at, what were we, 128 thousandths. It also has a hole that intersects the bottom of it that is also the 128 thousandths. And my thought is we want to ream this hole out or drill this hole out into the bottom that fits, would actually go to our thermostat, because I'm afraid that smaller hole, I'm afraid we might end up with a vapor lock or an air lock in here if I don't drill that out. And this is the piece that fits in there, which it has an opening of 209 thousandths. Okay, and what I'm using is I'm using a set of numbered drills. This is 1 through 50. These are commonly used if you need to run a tap into a hole for a 1024 or a 1032 screw. And that's what you would use. These are the numbers that would be used for such a thing. So, you know, you have your 824 or your 624 or 22 or whatever the size may be. That's what this particular drill set is used. So the drills are incremented in about 4 or 5 thousandths between each drill bit. So that's how we're getting such close measurements on all this. But anyway, my thought as I slept on it, and I put this thing together yesterday as we saw, but as I slept on it, I thought, you know, maybe I want to drill that hole out that's going to drop us down into this fitting. I think I want that to be a bigger diameter. This is coming in at the size of our pipe. This is a section of the pipe that we cut out. So that's the same diameter as what the pipe, the leak-off pipe is. So I think we're okay on that. I don't think we don't want to be any smaller, you know, than that diameter, but I think we want it to be larger in the bottom, coming out of here down into this fitting, subsequently going to our thermostat. So we're gonna take this over to the vise, and I'll get the drill, and we'll drill it out to the larger size. That was the 154 measurement. So I'll drill it out to that, and we'll see what we've got, because I still want this to seat, because I cut that angle on here. So we want this angle to be able to seat in there, but technically we could drill it all the way down, or all the way to this diameter, technically, I suppose. But anyway, we're going to go over to the bench, and we'll get set up, and we'll do some work on that. Okay, so we drilled this out. We basically went from the 128 to the 154. So we gained 26 thousandths on that diameter. So the cross piece coming through, this is the same size as the line coming in, and then the line going out into the tank. So we're the same dimension in this hole, and in this one coming down, we're 26 thousandths larger. And then that comes down into this one, this fitting, which, what did it come in, 209? So what is that, 154 to 209? So you're at 55 thousandths there difference. that it increases once it gets into this fitting. And then of course it reduces back down to our copper line is going to be the same as what this is. Yeah, actually it might be a little smaller than what this is here, but I think that's okay. I think we want this to act as a reservoir, so we want this to fill up with fuel in here so that when we hit the key and it vaporizes that fuel, this fuel is going to drop and be gravity fed down to that. And remember, we're not cranking the engine at this point, so you know we want more fuel, liquid, to get in here once we start cranking the engine. And I think that's what's going to do it, unless we end up, like I say, with a vapor lock in there, which is still possible. But anyway, we're going to go in and wash the debris out. We got some shavings in there. We're going to wash this out, put this thing back together, let it set up for a little bit before we attach it to the vehicle. Okay, so what we've done is we have cut our line here. Right here, obviously. And I basically removed about a 3/8 long piece of the pipe. I was hoping not to remove any of it, but I had to get enough room to put our makeshift reservoir in here. Now this coils around throughout here, and so I pulled this back and kind of rebent this to be back, and we're still going to get our flexibility out of this once we're all jointed together here. But what we're going to do is we're going to put this together and you know, see how good it works. So the first thing we've got is our compression nut, which will fit on there. Compression sleeve fits on next. And I don't have anything really tightened down on here yet. Our nut on there. Compression sleeve on that. Then we have our makeshift reservoir. So hopefully this is going to give us what we need to get the fuel down to our thermostat. Now, I know you're saying, Tech, why didn't you just put in a T-fitting? Well, I couldn't find one. I looked for the 3/16, which is what this plumbing is here. It's a 3/16 OD. They had couplings, but I could not get any T-fittings. And I looked online and all that, but I went to local hardware stores and places around locally here, and nobody had them. So I just decided, you know what, let's use another piece of our old AMC stuff laying around and see how this works. And I think this will give us more of a reservoir effect, as far as it's got a little more room on the bottom of it because of our larger diameter fitting in here we talked about. So that's going to fill up with fuel and give us a little more reservoir effect, I hope. We're going to slide this on here. And what we want to do is get this started on here. Get that started on there. Hopefully, like so. And I'm pushing it to keep it seated all the way in the back. And then we'll bend this down and put it on this one. The same thing, we're gonna compress that down. Now, this is where we get tricky. What we'll do is we'll put our 3/8 wrench on here and our 7/16 on here, and we'll begin to compress this together. Hoping that this all seals. So it's pretty tight in there. Turn that just a little bit. I want that to be more pointing toward this side. like so. Come into this one. Same thing. Press that down. Come in here. Tighten it up to the tank. Like so. And there we got it. We still have our movement in here with our spiral. We'll go ahead and tighten these back down. Thermostat. This line, by the way, is metal. I thought that this might have been copper, and when I sanded it, I took the paint off of it with some sandpaper because I want this to bite in there better, and it had kind of a coppery look to it. But it's not copper. And as you can see here, right in here, it looks like it's copper. Probably some kind of a combination alloy thing there. But anyway, we will come back and we're going to plumb in from our reservoir to our thermostat. So I got my 3/16 copper pipe. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of screw this onto here. And then try to decide how we want to route this. I know we definitely want it away from the engine back there. And then we just kind of want it to work its way down and into here. And that's not holding. Let's get the pipe bender. This has a provision for, we have an 1/8, a quarter, or an 1/8, a 3/16, and a quarter dimension on here that we can bend. So we will take this, we will bend it at about a 90. Take tape off. And I put tape on this because out here in the barn, I've had it out here for a while and I didn't want bugs or dirt to get into it. Not that that would happen out in the barn, right? And you just, we're still getting our room or our air through there. So we put that one up in there and we come down to here. We're going to want to cut that off back in here probably, and then that should get us, that should be enough to get him up in there. And then to do that, we'll just use a tubing cutter on it. See, so that sticks in. It goes in quite a ways there, doesn't it? About 3/4. So we'll come out to out into here. Should be enough. Just like so. Of course, you throw that on the ground because, you know, that's what you do. Now, what we want to do is we want to clean our opening up there. So This, of course, has a deburring tool on the end of it. We can put that in there and just turn that around a couple times and kind of open that hole up a little bit in there. So that looks good. Blow that out of there. And last of our fittings here. Manipulate this how we want to. Insert him in there. Okay, that's basically what we're looking at. And we've got gravity bringing us down through here, and then this is kind of leveled off and then drops in there a little bit. So probably about what we want. We're back in this area here, so the hood will clear all that. Should clear all that. And I think we're in good shape. As long as we bend this back here a little bit, tuck this back in. So, okay, so what we have here is all of our plumbing. We come off of our makeshift reservoir system here down to our copper line, all the way down into the thermostat. So very good on that. What we'll do is we'll operate now. I can hear the fluid re-entering the tank. So I think what we'll probably ought to do is probably crack this thing loose and see if yep, now we're getting a little bit of fluid out of it. So that's good. Tighten it back up. You always want to bleed these systems whenever you do anything with your diesel system. You gotta bleed it. You don't want air trapped in there. Very good. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to start it up, and put it under the actual pressure and see if what it does. We'll do that when we come back. Look out, Beck.